There we go. Sorcerers, hope you're all keeping well. I'm just going to make sure that we have everyone being able to hear us. I'm going to check the comments. If you can hear us, let us know, and we'll kick things off. We've got Melissa Benson here. Hi, Melissa. How are you doing? Can we see anybody? Just let us know if you can hear us. Hello, hello. Just make sure you can hear us before we start. Yes, you could hear us. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Obviously, you have people around the world, but it was Thanksgiving in the US yesterday. Obviously, we're very grateful to our Kickstarter backers and supporters. So we wanted to basically go through and answer a lot of questions. We get tons of questions, both in Discord, private messages, Facebook. And so what's super important to us is that we kind of get through as many of them as possible. So I've asked Erik and Rafa to join me today, and we'll be taking a deep dive into some of the questions. Now, the questions were submitted on our Kickstarter page. So let me just go to this real quick. Here we go. So I'm just going to share out this part of the screen here. There we go. And these are the questions we're going to be going through. We're going to try and get as many in as possible. If your question is not asked from Kickstarter, don't be too concerned, because you'll still be part of the giveaway. And for people who put the Kickstarter questions in, we'll be giving away 5 Relentless Crowd promo cards. These are Ian Miller art. There's 100 of these. Very, very desirable. So we're not going to keep doing this. This is probably one of the last chances that it was this easy to get one. In addition to that, we also have a Gleam, which you can go ahead and click on, and that will allow us to pick an additional 3 winners from people who are participating in chat today. So I put a link in the chat. Go ahead and click on it, enter your details. Please only enter once. I don't want to have to keep going through and removing people who use bots and stuff like that, because it's just a waste of my time. So we've got eight cards to give away today. Right, that's enough of me rabbiting. Erik, Rafa, how are you doing?
Doing great here.
Good.
Yeah, doing good.
We have representation from around the world. Erik, I know it's your Saturday morning. So can you tell the folks kind of what you've been up to this week? Because I know that you've been like super busy, heads down with some of the production stuff.
Yeah, so this week I actually sent off the last few bits of print files, and we sort of made things in a chronological order there, with the pre-condex first, and then the regular card pool with the regular cards, and then we got all the foil files out, which was quite a slog, I have to say, because each foil card has like 2 different masks and the full art back, and there's a lot of double checking and fixing there. And then now at the end of things, I think it was the day before yesterday, I sent out the Curio zip file.
We don't talk about those, so yeah, that's the mystery. So that's all you guys need to know for now. When you open the product, be prepared to be surprised. Awesome. I do actually have the print sheet that Erik sort of sent over to me earlier. Now, these are some of the ordinary cards. I believe there's no spoilers here. I went through it quickly and thought, yes, I know each of these. But you can see here the process. This is the process where, first of all, we obviously have the print that goes on the card. But below that is this. This is, what do they call this, Erik? This is the opaque white. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this, it's the white layer that the color will be printed on. So what you're seeing here is basically that white becomes more shiny. So, well, I guess I can explain the. You have the paper first, and then you attach a foil layer onto the paper, and the foil layer is the shiny bits. But you can't just quite print on top of the shiny foil layer. So you need to first print a white, basically white paint or like a white print that's meant to be printed on. So this one is that. So it shows where the black bits will not have any shininess come through, and the white bits will have as much shininess as possible come through. And yeah, artistically, there's a bunch of things you can work with here, and often you cut out silhouettes in the foreground and make it so that they sort of pop out and the background becomes shiny. but you also have other. It's kind of artistically different on each card. So, for example, near the middle there's Blood Ravens, and that one has the sort of shiny eye will be reflective, and that kind of resembles a bit like how a wet eye is shiny as well.
Wonderful. I think that's going to be one of my favorites. I'm looking at all these different arts, and we always get dinged for people saying, "Oh, you always say everything's your favorite," but there are so many favorites here. If I just go to this here, so basically, once we have the opaque white, we print over with this. So this is more like the conventional printing, where things were white, that will retain more shine. So you can see here with Blood Ravens, the eye is going to basically really be shiny on that particular card. Now, in addition to this, we do something a little different. Can you just talk us through this process here? Because I just want everyone to understand what else we do in terms of our foiling process.
Yeah, okay. So this here is a stamp layer where we will stamp on a silver, sort of shiny and also slightly thick and bumpy silver layer, which then goes on as you see, the frames and the names and the type line, and also the sort of in an inverted way on the mana cost and power number there. And this, when you run the finger over the card, you see a slight bumpiness, and this also, it makes the sorcery cards will be quite unique in this sense. And there's a few other games that have done this, but I think Sorcery does it in a really especially nice way, which includes sort of this kind of slight shadow behind this, and what else can be said? And one kind of convenient side effect of this is that it'll be extremely rough to sort of try to print the sorcery card in exactly the same way when we have all these layers and things that have to be exactly correct.
Yes, it's quite the challenge for us. So I'm sure it'll make it very difficult for other people. Just one thing, I just want to show people before we pivot into some of the questions. On the back of each of these cards, what we have is full art on the back, and I hadn't seen these this layout until just recently. But Erik sent it over to me, and as you guys can see, this is really cool because you're seeing parts of the art here where they're not disclosed on this sheet here because we've got things like text boxes in the way. So our foil cards are double-sided, and on the other side, what we have, let me just go back to here. There we go. On the other side, we basically have the full art, and this is not foiled. So basically, this is just an appreciation for the art on a regular card. So our foils are there's got two areas where people might want to collect them. So we're delighted about this. Now, you see in the background, someone's moving around. What do we got in the background? Do we have our binders? So just a quick production update. This really isn't what I want to talk about mostly today. However, you can see here, binders are finished now, and so they're going to be shipped to our regional hubs. We're delighted with these. Also, the play mats, Erik, how are we doing with those?
Yeah, they are also printed now and being shipped. And I have an example here. I can get some light on it.
There we go.
It's a little bit hard to see here in the light, but they will come kind of rolled up and in this plastic protection. And it took a bit of fiddling to get it just right, but they look great.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the Kickstarter questions, and we'll kick things off. So just in chat, how's everyone doing today? Please, we have that gleam.io link. Go ahead and click on that for your chance to win. So again, we've got 3 Relentless Crowd cards that we are giving away there. So just going to go ahead and bring the questions up, and we'll get started. Just bear with me one sec. Okay. Right, let's change the layout, and I need to move this over to here. There we go. So first of all, thank you everyone for your questions. There were quite a lot of them. We want to make sure that we can go through as many as possible. Some of them we can't really answer. We'd like to answer as many as possible. However, as you can imagine, there's always things that we don't really want to disclose about sort of the business and stuff like that. So, but we will, where possible, we will answer as many questions. So this is a good one, Erik. because we were kind of talking about this the other day. So Spencer has asked us, going back to Kickstarter planning phase, would the team have done what would the team have done differently in terms of laying out the structure of the Kickstarter and post Kickstarter milestones? Thanks in advance and can't wait to play next year. And we can't wait for you guys to have this. What would we have done differently about the Kickstarter?
Well, it's hard to say. An easy answer is that we would have planned it more and had like more images ready and not doing updates on the fly. But that's easy to say in hindsight. So I'm not sure we would have done so much differently, really. It all worked out really well in a strange way. So Simon, you might remember more problems.
Quite a few. So we would have been more ambitious, I think. We didn't really realize that we were going to have this level of success. I think everyone's pretty well aware of that. And so we kind of felt that we launched at the right time, but being prepared was important. I think the levels of things we would have done differently is maybe structured this a little bit better with content creators up front to allow us to be a bit more communicative. Nothing really about the campaign, because I think with all the bumps and that we had on the way, it kind of worked out fine. I guess that some of the Kickstarter goals were actually quite problematic for us to produce. And so knowing what we know now about putting things in packs and how we actually arrange the product, we may have elected to do things slightly differently. But on the whole, we're absolutely delighted. So there's really no issues there. Okay, Rafa, this is a good candidate for a question for you. Which card did you guys have the most trouble with designing and balancing? Which ones are on your hit list?
Man, there's so many cards. I think that in terms of balancing, it was pretty okay for the most part, because we did have like good amount of time to work on things, and we received a lot of feedback. There was a lot of play testing going on. And since like the goal of the game is not necessarily to have like perfectly balanced cards or anything like that, just like a healthy state of sorts, I felt like that was relatively easy. In terms of design, there were definitely a few cards that were a little rough. One that comes to mind is something like the Master Tracker, which always been in a weird place. Like we had a couple of ideas, but nothing felt like perfect, and sometimes it just like, I don't know, a design comes up and that's perfect. It fits like flavorfully. It's balanced. It's great. It's like it's simple, right? It's easy to understand. But for some of those cards, it actually took us quite a while to feel like, hey, that's at a perfect state right now. The Master Tracker is one that comes to mind, and also Sneak Thief is one that took a little while to get it in a cool place.
Okay, yeah, I think. Go ahead, Erik.
I can say that with the most problematic designs, we worked in a way where we, towards the end, we locked cards in, like the easier and the more obviously good, or like the more obviously finished they were, we locked them in. And that meant that towards the end of the process, we have had a lot of cards that, like the most problematic ones, and then we just sort of move them out of the card pool and maybe think about them more and use them in a later set instead. Yeah. So we're kind of lucky that we had quite a lot, like so much art and so many cards, so that we could do some sort of cutting towards the end. But that also means that many of the most problematic ones would be cards that has never actually been shown publicly at all.
I think the biggest issue that I perceived was actually having 400 cards, which I can tell you folks is absolutely nuts. It's a crazy thing to do with the first release of your game, to have quite so many cards in the first set. But we're absolutely delighted with the way that everything's turned out, but didn't make things easy, that's for sure. So it's a great entry into the world of the contested realm, and hopefully we can build on those foundations. But yeah, I think the scale of the number of cards was obviously a lot more problematic. Next question. Has there been a decision regarding a reserve list? I can answer this one. The answer is no. You have to remember, we don't actually have product in people's hands yet. And so it's very difficult for us to know exactly how people consume it. Sorcery is proud of being different in terms of being a card game. So we may or may not elect to do that. We don't really want to stop people having fun with powerful cards, though. It's not really what this game's sort of like built on. We want people to actually be able to enjoy those. Now, the chances of you actually being able to do something special may be something that we might be able to control with the rules or for the game itself. But with a reserve list, I think it's a little bit premature for that. One thing we can say, however, is that the promo cards which are given out, anything on Kickstarter, that is locked. So there will be no, for instance, other opportunity to get the Kickstarter exclusive cards either in the pledge pack or the booster box topper. So those will actually be limited, as is promotional cards we give to our partners, in addition to the Relentless Crowd promo that is limited to 100. So we probably will publish something on the website eventually, just letting people know that, hey, guess what? This is limited, but it's not our intent to limit fun. We don't really want to basically have a big list of cards you can't play, especially young people have collected them. It doesn't really seem to be very sorcery-ish. So good. Let's have a look. Erik and Co., what are you all most excited to see once product reaches the backers?
Well, I'm just looking forward to walking into card shops or any other sort of gamer conventions and so on, and see people use it and sort of be able to observe it without being sort of there to push it necessarily. So I hope that happens.
You're not going to go up to people and say, hey, you should try this game. I've heard it's pretty good. It's all over the internet. Yeah. What about you, Rafa?
Man, I think initially I'm pretty excited about watching videos of content creators and people just cracking boxes. Something that I love doing, like when I have some free time. So I think that would be the first thing for me. But then, I'm with Erik there. Like I'm super excited to see people actually playing with the physical cards. Go to it would be hard to have local game stores here carrying the product, at least for the time being. But at least I can watch people play online, or there are a lot of people stream even like playing with the physical cards and so on. So I'm excited to see that. Yeah,
I think I'm most excited about what comes next. So we acknowledge that we've done a great job with the alpha set. We're pretty proud of what we've done. There is a question, actually. We'll address this now because it kind of is tangential to this. Somebody asked about, are you happy with the fact that you delayed to work on the rules and the card design? Erik, I'll put that to you first of all, because we've spoken about this before. Making a decision to delay things, it's kind of tough for us. We have to tell people the bad news that, hey, you're not getting it as soon as possible. But what do you think the outcome is? How do you feel about where the game is now?
Well, just thinking about this, I actually for quite a long time thought that the game was kind of like, this is awesome and people would enjoy it and it's kind of good enough. But then looking at the game now and how much better it is and clearer, and even a lot of the individual cards are just a lot more like just better and more flavorful. And I don't know, I have a hard time saying that it was the wrong decision to delay and make things better, seeing how sort of fantastic it is now compared to before, even if I liked it for like a year already. So
I think what we saw was not necessarily the evolution of the game, but the evolution of how people play it. I know, Rafa, you did a lot of work to template the rules, make the cards more consistent, but not lose any of the flavor. That's a long, ongoing process. And really, that was our commitment to our design and development team, that, with the extra time, we really want to work on that. I've heard that, through our conversations, you're delighted with where the game is now. Is that right?
Yeah. As Erik said, right, it was a lot of fun, right? I think the game already drew a lot of people in, and for a lot of different reasons. But looking at the game right now and having played the game with the updated rules and rule book, and with the template being correct, and it's so much fun. It is so much fun, and I'm really happy with the state of the game right now, from all perspectives. And delays, they're not great, right? I think everybody is really looking forward to get the product in hand. But I'll say that it was totally worth it. Because I play the. I mean, I must be the person that has played the game the most, and I can really say with full confidence that hey, the game is better now. It's in a better state right now.
Yeah. I think we have to do this because with the Kickstarter process, we have to be really transparent with folks about what we're trying to do, and communication is really key. And giving people a glimpse behind the curtains to what happens with the production process, and inviting so many playtesters in to see exactly how the game is, we felt it was absolutely the right thing to do. I think we've been validated. Again, we really want people to get their cards as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But I think the game's in the state now where we've got a really firm foundation for the future, and that's important to us as we grow and evolve the product over next year and the years beyond that. So yeah, feel good. Here we go. I see that people have been playing against you on Tabletop Simulator. What's your win rate, Rafa? How are you doing there? I know you play.
Man, I had done better in the past. Not gonna lie. I started experimenting with different builds and people are getting better. People are getting better, and yeah, I think I lost 2 games 2 days ago or yesterday. It's like, I have to try hard. Now I'm back to like the broken decks again. And
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna say I'm not playing into like a net deck, so someone else does all the brain work and I just play the cards. That's pretty much what I've got time for. But I think that what we're seeing is people are really playing the game a lot. The amount of cycles we have with play testing and the feedback we've taken is very important. People might think, oh, I give feedback, it's into a vacuum. It really isn't. When anything comes up in Discord, which we use for a lot of this type of information, we're constantly talking about it. The team sort of take that and say, well, let's look into this. Let's look into the rule book. Does that support that? What about these card interactions? We take that very seriously. With the product itself, obviously, alpha is our first release. With beta, our aim is to potentially do a few minor changes here and there where necessary. We don't really want it to be a hugely distinct experience from what people have with alpha. It's probably not a good idea to do that at this stage of the game's maturity. So yeah, hopefully we can't wait to get that, and people get it in stores as well, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. I want to go through the questions a bit quicker. So Tim, TCG collector, basically, I sell a lot of cards on TCG Player. The answer is probably. We haven't made a determination yet. It's just work for us. We just have to make submissions, speak to the people there. It's pretty straightforward stuff. We do want to be able to people support collectability. In terms of secondary market, we're not directly involved. However, that lives outside. And it's become extremely prevalent as eBay. In fact, they acquired the platform. So I'm sure we can do something there in the future. Chris Nicholson, which card ended as your favorite foil, Erik? Which is the one you're most proud of?
Well, some of them are a lot easier than others. Just looking at the cards here, there's some. I really like Rimland Nomads, for example, but that's also like the card actually fits, kind of suits foiling really well. So that's cool. But then there's something like 350 foil cards that I haven't actually seen just the final iteration, and sometimes it can be kind of small things that sort of makes or breaks certain things. So the way this works is that we had a couple of iterations where you test a few cards and then you make them sort of better, fix the mistakes, and then you do that again until you think that everything is completely good, but you never quite know at the very end. So maybe I'll change my mind when I get to open some boosters and sort of see them in the proper context.
We have a lot of boosters as well, so fantastic. Well, we'll have to wait and see. I think I pointed out the other day, I really like Ian Miller's, I think it's Warp Spasm. That stood out to me as being a really cool one that we may see in the future. So, Rafa, I'm not sure if you've actually seen many of the foils. Did you actually take a look?
Not many, and I feel like the video doesn't do it justice. So I'll wait.
Okay, well, hopefully we might be able to do something in the near future when we get some of these samples back from the printer before we go into full production with the foil cards. Okay, given the production process, where the production process is now, how are you feeling about card quality and specifically foil card quality? Thanks for all the hard work. We feel good. We wouldn't do this unless we did feel good about it. To have the alpha cards in hand was I wouldn't say it's a relief, it's vindication. To actually have those and think, these are cool. People actually will be having this. This is the product that people will be getting. Feel good about that. With the foil cards, the foil technology is such that you actually are applying a layer with different thermal characteristics on top of cardboard. So what we've done is we've asked the printer to go ahead and glue this well ahead of time. We've had the paper resting for a long time. We're going to put that foil layer on top, and our aim is to, as best possible, is to reduce this curling or pringling, as people call it, as best we can. The ones that I've received, the sample cards, which I did a video on, so go to our YouTube channel, there has been no curling with those cards. Basically, some of them are in the shrink wrap, some of them be just laying on my desk, some have been ripped up, and there's no real huge amount of curling on those, so we feel very good about those. Okay, thanks for the update. I didn't realize until the pre-con deck video how round the borders of the cards are. Erik, round bordered cards, why?
Well, it sort of evokes the right feelings, I can say. But I a little bit more seriously, I also think it really fits the kind of full art nature. It's a little bit hard to put the finger on why exactly, but it just feels really good to play with and looks good, in my personal opinion. I hope people agree.
Well, that's what it's all about. We have a vision, and this is what we wanted to do, and Erik made the decision. So, just having them, they feel with the full art as well, with the corners, it feels really, really nice. They actually look extremely painterly when you hold them in your hands. So I think people will like it for sure. They work with sleeves just fine. In fact, one of the good things about the corners themselves is that if you use sleeves where they have a colored back, colored inner, what happens is you can actually see the card colors, so you can actually distinguish your cards very easily on the board as well, which is just a really nice side effect of what we did, but it works very well when you're actually playing with physical cards, something that people probably don't realize on Tabletop Simulator at the moment. Okay, so Jesse has asked a deluge of questions, one per person, but we're going to see if we can get to a good one here. Are you able to reveal any details about organized play to promote and support in-store play and grow the game after launch? In addition to the promos in the Innkeeper pledges, does Erik's Curiosa plan to produce organized play or community support kits for stores? We're at an early stage with this, but we do have a number of resources completed that we can actually deploy this way. So in terms of store support, we need to speak to the stores themselves. When stores acquire product, they do it for two reasons. First of all, they want to make money. And secondly, they want to give an experience to their players. Now, with Sorcery being kind of a more casual game in terms of not being highly competitive, there are competitive elements to it because it is a game. We have to understand why people would go to a game store to play Sorcery and then give that correct level of support. People love to have special cards, the feeling of being special and turning up and playing with friends. And we want to support that type of event where people get together locally. How we do that is something we're currently figuring out, but we want to make sure we work closely with stores, partners, and also distributors to make sure there's a good reason for people to do that. So I'm sure that in the Innkeeper pledges, there is already some sort of support for the initial alpha set, but moving into beta, our aim is maybe to do something working with the stores, so there is a good reason for you guys to play with people outside of your four walls. Wonderful. Okay, next up, Sean Johnson. Will future sets remain in print up until the next release, or is your print run model based on a single release, and when it sells out, that's all there would be? Okay, Erik, I'm going to take a stab at this one. So we're still figuring out that. The issue we have is that it's very tough for card games right now. I saw from some of the comments people have mentioned other card games out there and some of the difficulties they have with overproduction, just both the number of cards available and also the number of products. And so we're keen to avoid that. Our aim is to have one set a year. And so we need to do things a little bit different. In terms of having them available over time, I think being pragmatic, we do want people to be able to get product, but how we structure that is something we're working through quite carefully. We are very conscious of market saturation when it comes to product. We're very conscious of people being able to get it through different regions, and so we need a way that people can access the product. But unfortunately, when you have something which is collectible, people do tend to buy it fairly quickly. And we saw that with Kickstarter, and we've seen it since as well. So we're trying to figure out exactly how we can do that. So there would be product available for just maybe an extended period rather than everything selling out on one day. It's just, the competition here isn't for people to have the fastest internet and the quickest fingers and being able to be available at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to click a button. That's not really fair on anybody. So we want to basically change that. And also working with multiple channels in terms of distribution would mean that more people can get their hands on it. So we're working on that. And when the time's right, we'll be sharing a little bit more about our strategy. Okay, for the next couple of sets, what new twist or direction are you most excited about among other things you can share? I'm not sure we can share anything here, Erik, can we?
Yeah, it's probably best to not share much about that and share it when we have it ready. But I can mention that there's some ridiculously cool things being planned and being sort of worked on slowly in the background. And some are sort of multi-year projects. But yeah, there will be awesome things coming.
Perfect answer for a live stream. Thank you, Erik. You got the memo on spoilers, so that's great. Rafa, anything that you want to add to that, or just agree and nod your head?
Erik said it all.
Fantastic. Right. As with any game, I love playing on a team against a team opposition. It adds a deeper dynamic to its strategy and learn to synergize with others. What plans, if any, have been discussed regarding this or other ways to play Sorcery? Rafa, this is in your wheelhouse here in terms of how potentially people can play multiplayer games, they can play in teams, because I know you've kind of looked at that at this early stage. What are your thoughts about this type of dynamic and how we can support that?
Yeah, so that's, I could say that this is something that is 100% in our minds, and we've been announced that as part of the Kickstarter campaign. And like we haven't worked all that much in that particular area just yet, because we're really focused on some other more important things to get the cards out and so on. But this is definitely one of our priorities right now. Now, we don't want to take this as like only part, like it's like the company's job or the company's responsibility to like have this perfectly designed and developed format, because if you look at other games out there, such as MTG, for example, you can see that one of their most popular format right now is something that was developed by the community itself. So yes, we are working on it. We are doing things as a team. We are discussing things, but we also want the community to take part in that process, right? And right now we've been mostly talking about FFA or free for all, so like that for 4 players, like individually, but also 2v2, which we know is something that people like too, and possibly even other formats in the future.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think with Sorcery, we've basically landed. We have to stick the landing with the game as is for the 2-player experience. But I know some of the revision we did towards the end was to make sure that we didn't sort of paint ourselves into a corner with certain card design if there were more players. So we kind of, sowed the seeds for that. And our aim is to work over that over an extended period of time, but also seeing what the community are doing as well, because people come up with some great ideas, and when we can support you guys, the community, and when you have fun is a win for us as well. So okay, someone's asking about dates, delivery dates here, and we owe you guys sort of information on dates. So basically we're doing really well with the production process in terms of printing the cards. As you've seen, we actually have product printed. We're going through the packing sortation phase now. The problem that we have of being more declarative, saying anything different from Q1, is that, first of all, there are a few unknowns in terms of our production pipeline for the shipping side. It's very hard for us to estimate that right now because there's some COVID issues and things like that. So we want to basically make sure that we're not too declarative there. Secondly, one of these things when you work in this industry, any date that you put out in gaming is a sort of a declarative statement. And so we have to be very careful about that. We have some ideas, maybe tune it a little bit within the Q1 period, but we really can't share at this stage because as much as people here are fans and they on Discord and they follow us every single time, some people aren't. And that information can get to them. And frankly, they may be disappointed. And we've already had to delay already. So we're going for Q1. We feel good about that as it stands. And we will refine it as we get further through the process. The first refinement will come once the print is complete and things will be shipped. We'll have information on which vessels are being used. We can then speak to our partner, ShipQuest, who help with the logistics of how everything goes out to backers. And once we get to that point, we can start narrowing that. So if you just bear with us, folks, we're very committed to getting this done, but we just don't want to disappoint anybody because there already have been a few delays. So Q1 2023. Okay. Sorcery fits perfectly well within the fantasy genre, but the mechanics could fit brilliantly in different realms or IPs. If you could pick another realm to have this game take place, what would it be? Erik, don't give the answer that I think you're going to give. Can you give a different answer? Because there's one that we've discussed already, and we're not going to talk about that.
Okay, I'll try some media trained answer.
Good.
Which would be that there's several kind of art styles and genres that I would want to make games for. And yeah, some would fit better and some would fit worse, but I guess I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's correct in that it can fit in many different settings.
Wonderful. Rafa, what about you? Is there any genres that you think potentially would work really well?
Maybe I'm I'm worried about my own answers here. Arthurian Legends, it would be great.
That'd be a fantastic one, wouldn't it? So, certainly a good landing point for us. As like folks, we know we don't want to give everything away. We are one set a year, so we have to be a bit careful about commitments and promises and things like that. But we got some really cool ideas. So right. What's the story behind your Discord avatar names? And I wanted to ask this for Rafa anyway. Basically, where did your Discord username come from? If you can say.
It's I can, but it's okay. It's silly. It's silly. I've always struggled with like usernames and nicknames like my entire life, and I could even share here some of the terrible ones that I've had. But this one is just like Leaf is just basically my nickname, but like the letters are reverted, right? The order. And Ember is just like English for my dog's name. That's it. It's that bad, guys. It's that bad.
Well, what a disappointing answer.
It's that bad.
That's kind of cool. Mine was me trying to be clever. So when you play like MMOs and stuff like that, you always want a cool name, and you go through the list and you sort of like Google stuff and think, I want to be like Shadow or Nemesis or someone like this. And you go through, and of course they're all taken. And so I was just reading a bunch of like Slavic folklore, and my cosplay come up, and I thought, you know what, that's a really cool one. Since then, it's been on Doctor Who, and obviously it's a comic book spelled a bit differently, but that's why I picked it, because I just like reading the folklore. I don't have anything specific in terms of the story itself. Isn't really a very sort of a PG story, that's for sure. But I just picked it because I just wanted a name for an MMO. I'm just glad I didn't use my initial Xbox gamer tag, because I'd probably be in quite a lot of trouble. So yeah, I think over time things change. Good. Right then. This next one. Any info and when will we be able to send our Kickstarter cards into various grading companies for grading, and which ones? Erik, what are your thoughts on grading brand new cards?
It's a little bit painful as a sort of old school collector as me. It's part of me thinks there should be a limit where you aren't allowed to grade cards that are like newer than say year 2000 or so. But with that said, I do want to grade Sorcery as well, and I see the reason for like protecting your cards. So I'll probably get a graded collection myself. And we have been talking actually to many grading companies. as well. So we'll do the steps that are required to help them get grading possible.
Yep. Good. Yeah. And I think we have to provide them with a whole bunch of cards they have for reference purposes. So it's a bit premature because we don't actually have all of the cards right now. But once we do, we'll make sure we speak to probably the major ones. I think it's fair to say. We're collectors as well. So we kind of know what people like and what they trust as well. But for us, it's more of a sort of a process whereby people can just have a very cool collectible. So I'm sure people will grade every single card they have, and good luck to you. But we really want people to play with the cards as well. And those slabs don't stack that well. So I'm sure there'll be some special ones and maybe some curios that people might want to protect. Okay, next up, question about curios. Tread lightly here, Erik. You've hinted at keeping a measure of mystery and mystique baked into Sorcery Contested Realm experience of pack openings. Curios are one such example. A sort of crackerjack treat at the bottom of a box to keep things fun and exciting. Why is this an important part of the customer experience with card pack openings? I can talk about this. It's because it doesn't really happen normally or organically in games today. The internet's a great leveler in terms of information. And what happens is that when people have something, they are interested in learning more about it. And so they go to content creators, and what happens? People think, you know what, I'm going to get all this information together in one place, and it's going to serve as being highly instructional for people. They can actually find everything they want to know here. It's kind of a shame that things work that way. And we kind of have like vintage sensibility when it comes to this stuff. Erik's got these stories about him sharking cards from people, when they didn't realize the value and things like that. So we wanted a few surprises in the set itself. We wanted to make sure that when people are opening it, like streamers and content creators, suddenly it's an event. Hey, what's this? What's happening here? Don't know about this. This is new, and we want people to have that excitement. This is really why we bake it into the product. Now, curios themselves are something we've done for the alpha set. Will they happen in future? Maybe, maybe not. We're not going to always do things the same way. We like to evolve and change things over time. They've been very popular. People seem to like them, but we also want to get the feedback for how they feel in that first set. But we want people to be highly engaged on social channels, looking at other people opening the product and seeing what they get. And I anticipate the first week or so, we're probably going to see people discover a lot of cool things that potentially maybe we haven't shown off already. So that's enough on curios. I'm not going to speak any more about that. They're very limited. Good luck opening your boxes. Make sure you do as well, otherwise you'll never discover one. Okay, Christopher he had a few questions. I'm going to take this one from you, Christopher. So artwork and artists are a critical part of the game's appeal and success. They are a really important part of this game's creative labor force. For Erik, does the art concept choose the artist, or does the artist choose the art design? Explain. What have you
got? Well, the way it works currently is that I send various themes out to artists, and those themes are picked in a way that I think would fit the particular style. So some artists are better at certain things, like some artists might be good at like actions, for example, and some artists might be good at specific monster types, for example. But I usually also present a list of choices. So the particular artist gets to pick some that feel especially inspiring. So, I also leave it, the artists, it's often left quite open with a very, very minimal explanation as well, to leave quite a lot of room open for like the personal interpretation of the theme. And then of course, afterwards, when we get the art, then we might quite often end up tweaking the card effect, depending on what the art looked like, to make it fit kind of perfectly afterwards. And I quite enjoy that sort of chaotic structure to it, or sort of fluid nature of the game design there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing here, Yosef's asked a question, looking ahead into the future for Sorcery, what are some of the valuable lessons or surprises you'll be taking with you from the printing and production process? Erik, I know this has been pretty much everything you've been focused on for the last month or so. What are the most valuable lessons you've learned?
We have this horrible sort of manual process for outputting cards and making print files. So that will be like one of the high priority things, like getting a pipeline that automates a lot more of that. Because currently it's, I've been sitting for hours and hours in Photoshop doing these files, and it's like super prone to print errors. So everything has to be double checked so many times. And I think we found, well, I don't know of any errors right now, but I'm sure there's some problems with some cards that we will fix. And that's like one of the few things we will fix for beta, if there's sort of clear mistakes on things.
Yeah.
But then after that, we are looking at automating and making things a lot more sort of less manually time consuming.
Good. Conscious of time, we've got a whole bunch of questions. Going to go through this one. I'm going to go through yes, no, real quick. So power creep through careful design, we're going to try and avoid it. However, we want to have powerful events in the game, so those are very welcome. We use our rarity to control that for consistency within a deck. So ordinary cards, you have 4 in a deck. If you've got a unique event, then it's going to be slightly more challenging. Also, we have the threshold system, which allows us to control that. But we do want to have significant events happen within Sorcery. How will you manage print runs? We've talked about that. Will you reprint sets? Will they be distinguishable from older sets? Reprinting sets, we're going to have a beta print, which is the similar cards for alpha. Probably there will, in each instance, be some kind of set marking, very subtle on each card. Unforeseen hurdles in the Kickstarter. Success was an unforeseen hurdle, but we soon managed to get through that. Multiplayer we've talked about. Merchandise and accessories. Yes, we have thought about that. We kind of are figuring out how we can have more of a strategy rather than just produce accessories. We like to think that we are sort of a very high quality game when it comes to all the work we do on the production side, and so we want people to have a really good experience of that. So I think it's natural for us to speak to sort of partners in the industry and to see how they can support that. We want the products to feel special. We want to have cool things that maybe people don't do. So really would like to do some stuff there, but we have to be conscious of our quite humble beginnings. We've done well on Kickstarter, but we are a new company, and so we do need to build a profile in the industry before we can actually leverage those types of partnerships. But we would love to do some stuff for sure. What game mechanic is hardest to figure out for multiplayer team to work? And I think it's basically how you share fun, how people feel engaged within the game. I think that's pretty much the same for most games, actually. Delays for Sorcery, must be burning through more money than expected. Is Erik's Curioso doing well financially? Yes, we're doing fine. And what people have to understand is that really this isn't, for us, it's not really about the money. It's about the vision here. It's about why we do this. It's very important for people to understand that, we could do things very differently. People ask questions like, well, can we get it into Walmart or Amazon? We could do if we really wanted to. I'm sure that we could make a game that could be sold that way, but it's not really what we're about. And I hope people can see that for the way that we sort of communicate with you folks and how we design the product itself. It's not our intent for us to go to market that way. Will Sorcery be translated into other languages in future sets? Erik, what are your thoughts on that?
Probably. It depends on the future sort of uptake in other language areas. One kind of side effect of Kickstarter is that it's extremely kind of US centric and English language centric. So yeah, I guess it depends on what happens in the future. But you do get to, like, you do need to get sort of printed box numbers up very high for things like that to really be necessary.
I think if you study what's happening on the industry for other games and IPs, a lot of companies are actually backing away from that to a degree. It's not something we don't want to do, but we do need to have that level of success to allow us to do it. Also, the words within Sorcery, they're kind of being designed very carefully in terms of the flavor text. It's probably actually going to be quite a lot of work for us to sort of translate each of these into different languages? So I think the answer for now is probably not, but in the future, if we're successful, we'll see what we can do. In fact, it would be great that we can maybe embrace that in some way in future, but for right now, the answer is probably no. Rafa, quick spells. What's the status of those? How do you feel about those? And basically, what do you think might happen in the future with those?
Yeah, so I mean, it's short answer. It's postponed, right? It is a system and a mechanic that we want to introduce at one point, and we relatively clearly said so. But there was just a lot going on in terms of mechanics for alpha, and the quick as a mechanic wasn't fully fleshed out, and there weren't even like that many cars that were making use of it. But it's definitely something that is in your minds. We've been discussing that as a team as well, and hopefully in the future we'll be reintroducing quick, and we'll share more when the time comes.
Good. Next question from Ryan. So all of humanity's fears have come true. You sit around a campfire, warming your weary bones. The threats of mutants and other groups of survivors who want to steal your last food supplies is imminent. Which minion is your survival group in this post-apocalyptic world? Could start with you, Rafa. Who's going to be in your team?
Man, what am I? Right? Am I an avatar? A minion? I'm not sure.
I think you're probably an avatar. I think we can promote you to an avatar. That's fine.
So I'll probably say Death Dealer, because then he just kills all the threats, right?
But also any of your friends as well. So
Well, but he I mean, the question did mention like one, right? Like one ally, right?
Okay.
So,
well, I think we know where we stand now, Erik. If when the chips are down, Rafa's all about himself. What about you? Actually, I think you've had a visitor to the office, haven't you? Very recently, that was sent to you.
Bring my friend here.
There we go. Let me just make that big. 1 sec. There we go. Everyone can see it. So
wonderful.
This was a community member, Angerworm. Shout out to him. He produced this absolutely wonderful depiction of Pudge Butcher, including very little feet at the back here. And he very kindly sent that to the Erik's Curiosa team. We're absolutely delighted with this. It's a source of tremendous amusement. So thank you very much for doing that for us. We very much appreciate it. And Erik was saying it's always a measure of the success of a project by the level of contribution from the community in terms of art contributions. And when we get things like that, we know we're onto certainly a very strong track indeed. So that's delightful. I think Pudge Butcher would be mine. Yeah, he just sorts stuff out, and although probably won't be much food to go around, so maybe that wouldn't be the wisest idea. Okay. Question on revised set. We have a schedule. I think we talked about maybe 10 weeks after. We have to work with stores to make sure that works with their release schedules as well. So, with stores, they have multiple different products and SKUs. We do need some level of enablement with the distribution partners and things like that. So we're tracking towards them. We don't want it to be like a huge amount of time, because we want other people to be able to join in the fun with people who already have the alpha cards from Kickstarter. But then again, we do want people who've committed to Kickstarter to have something very cool that they can have. And, some people want to trade or give them to people and stuff like that. So we want to do a little bit of that, but the beta version will follow probably about 10 weeks with our current timing. We'll wait and see. Okay. Favorite card concept that you couldn't make work for alpha? Tower of Babel. That was 2 cards that we had. Couldn't quite make it work. What's the story with that, Rafa?
Yeah, that was a close one. But we really wanted to do the card justice, and we really felt like it just had to be played on the same square. But that's not something that's like part of the core system. So we talked a lot. We saw how we could implement that. We were some, back and forth. But yeah, it was a little sad that this one didn't make the cut.
I think that's one of the difficult challenges when designing any game, is not really what you do, but what you can't do, and having to make those judgment calls. I think we went up to about 404 cards, and we reduced it by 1, which was our commitment on Kickstarter. But we've got plenty of good ideas waiting in the wings until we can actually sort of revisit those. So nothing will be wasted, and hopefully things will make a reappearance. For some of them are fan favorites as well, from Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, we really want to make sure that people can enjoy those ideas and cards for sure. Okay. Can you explain or describe what your marketing strategy is to get people aware and playing Sorcery, LGS's marketing events, etc.? Yep, I can do that very quickly. It's quite a saturated market, trading card games. So we need to play to our own strengths. And that is the fact that we have a very specific vision about the way that we produce a product. We already have our innkeepers, and our aim is to work with stores directly to help them with promotional products and things like that, things that they can actually do to help support the community. In addition to that, our aim is to obviously to support things like content creators and people who produce content that people love a lot as well. But moving forward, as we get towards the alpha release, we do have a few things lined up in terms of how we can reach out more widely to a much larger market. And working with some strategic partners to allow us to do that. Again, if I tell you what it is now, it won't be much of a surprise, but going into next year really is where the rubber hits the road for us. So watch this space, and we do actually have some cool things planned as well. Okay. During the printing process, have you noticed any misprint cards, such as misalignment, over or under saturated ink? Q&A monitoring closely. Some collectors like misprints. Yes. But we don't. We want to make sure the product is as cool as possible and as consistent as possible as well. So we're taking measures to have direct representation, people who actually are at the factory to look at cards and report back to us and give us any insight. Our printing partner is very trusted. They've done a fantastic job, and they've got ahead of some of the problems that we didn't even notice in terms of how we set things up. So like I said, we're in very good hands when it comes to the production process as well. Our aim is to obviously reduce the amount of any sort of misprints or anything with cards. They do happen. Producing at scale, it's inevitable that there may be some there. So any collectors, may have something to pick up, but it's certainly not our aim to make sure that's a common occurrence. Okay. We've got another question on art. I'm just going to go through here because I know there's a few that we wanted to focus. We're getting a little slow on time. We've got probably about another 30 minutes before we pivot into the giveaway section. I know people are bearing with us for that. Let's have a look here. I'll try to pick a small one here. Strategy for tournaments. We talked about tournaments. One thing actually, Rafa. People were asking us about the tabletop simulator tournament that we were going to do, and I think the answer is we've kind of been too busy to spend some time. I know that you, Nick, and some of the others really wanted to participate in that. So any ideas? But then potentially we could do something with that.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we really want to do because it's probably like I don't know if it's a way to reward, if that's the correct word, but it's a way to say thank you to all the people that have supported us from the very beginning and have been like so engaged and have been so helpful with feedback, right? For in terms of like the rule book and the cards. And I don't know, it would be a really cool thing for the community. Maybe this like first tournament, it's like not like the real thing, right? Not the physical cards, but it's yeah. We plan to have that, and we'll be organizing, preparing things better. We do have some ideas already because we had been planning it, but we'll get to it.
Good. David, I did see your question on art. I'm not trying to skip any questions, and everyone will be entered into the prize draw. So the issue of art is that it's actually quite a nuanced question, and it requires quite a lot of time for Erik to give the kind of answers that I think that our artists deserve. So what we're actually doing is over the coming weeks, we're working with Mike from Collector Art House in a series of interviews where we'll learn a little bit more about Erik's background, the kind of way that he's worked on the art, the game ideas and things like that. So let's keep an eye out for that. We'll publish the first one on our website, and then following that, hopefully we can have some kind of like videos that Erik can be sort of interviewed in detail. So we will get to questions like that, but we're just very conscious of the short form factor for this particular Q&A. Awesome. Okay. It's been truly remarkable seeing the game progress over the last year. Thank you very much, William. You have allowed members of the community to take part and provide feedback on the development of Sorcery, which was such a great touch. Will you be opening up future releases to external playtesters, the same as you have with Alpha? It's a balancing act. So Kickstarter means transparency. It means the fact that people are part of the whole process. You believe in us, and so we present you with a product and we take you through all the process. Now, the issue that we have is that if we're going into a new set, then we want to make sure there are some surprises for people. And the more people that use the playtesting, the less of a surprise that can be. And so we do have some internal playtesters that we work with, and I think we'll continue along those lines. But for us, the playtesting really is the reception to the game and the dynamics which are already in the game today. So we see certain kinds of like themes in the decks. We see how people gravitate towards things like low-cost minions or card draw, things like that. That's the kind of area that really helps us with that playtesting. In terms of playtesting the new set, I think it's fair to say that it's probably not going to be as overt as we have with the alpha. I'm sorry if that disappoints anybody, but also we're very focused on making sure that when the new sets come out, again, we want a surprise. We're probably not going to be able to do that and generate that kind of hype around the product, especially since we're once a year. Okay. Is there a possibility of non-set specific cards to be produced and released in the future? More promotional cards, cards for events, or special artist reveals? Thanks. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Aaron. Kind of spoken about promo cards, Erik. What's your thought on promo cards? Because we kind of see some level of scope creep when it comes to those, and suddenly there's a lot of different promo cards that people can collect. What are your current thoughts?
Yeah, there's there's a sort of diminishing returns built in giving out lots of promo cards. The more you give out, the less special they become. So, and it's always very tempting to create all these promo cards and give out in like 1,000 different circumstances. But we're gonna try to be quite conservative with that, and also that, of course, means that there's more that happens in the actual booster boxes themselves. So
yeah,
they would be the thing that are the most fun to open.
No, I think again, going back to our vintage sensibilities, it's quite important for us that the booster box contains the fun, and that's really what we want to do. It's always nice there's some incentives for people to meet up or play or things like that. And given that where the industry is, it kind of does happen, so we have to support it to a limited degree. But I think we're really not going to flex on that too hard. Promos will feel special, and there'll be things that people do enjoy to collect, but it certainly won't be the basis of the majority of our releases for sure. Okay, reprint policy yet? No news on that. I know that people are quite keen to know about that, but it's way too premature for us to make a determination. Print numbers in future. We'll be disclosing those to a degree. I'm not quite sure how we move forward with that, because obviously we feel the product's going to sell out pretty quickly once we go to market with a second wave with beta. So we're going to probably not allow that to be consumed very, very quickly. We want to make sure it's available for a bit longer. So in print runs, I'm sure there will be some level of, I think some other games maybe declare it afterwards. Some don't declare it at all. And we'll basically follow what we see a lot of other sort of players in the market do as well. Let's have a look here. Talking about other games, we're not going to get too deep into other games. I know there's a lot of questions on there. I think it's fair to say that what we're seeing in card games at the moment is some struggles based on the macroeconomics sort of status in general. A lot of people are struggling at the moment with employment. Certainly after post-COVID, there's issues with people establishing friendships and meeting up with people. We want Sorcery to be a very social game that people can enjoy getting together. So I think right now we really want to make sure that we do everything we can to facilitate that. We also feel that a lot of people will play for fun at home, and maybe even with family members, which traditionally has been very challenging for me to get organized, especially to play games. But yeah, we hopefully people can play in a bunch of different ways. Kev Diddy has a question here. What are your thoughts on going out to our local game stores to hold how to play Sorcery classes? Any suggestions on how to make them more successful class to teach? Rafa, I know that you've spent a lot of time on Tabletop Simulator and you've taken people through this. What tips can you give in terms of how we can sort of onboard people and get them used to the game?
Well, start simple, right? I think the pre-constructed decks are a really good starting point. And like teach the basics, but teach as you play, right? I think that has been the most successful experience for me personally, because you don't want to worry about every single detail, every like niche case scenario that might pop up in one of your games. I just want to get people playing as fast as possible, and because that's where the fun is, right? And sorcery sort of like works really nice in that sense, like in a pre-constructed scenario, especially because a lot of cards are pretty like simple and straightforward, intuitive, and your avatar is there. Everything is sort of there for you to just like play and have fun.
I completely agree. I think when I learned sorcery, and it's changed over since the time that I actually learned it, but starting simple with things like minions, and then considering relics a bit later on, and then looking at auras and how they control. There's different levels of depth that you have, and so it's always a good idea to maybe have consistency first of all, and then build from there. But I think one of the really cool things about sorcery is telling a story as you're playing as well, and make sure that the people that you're sort of showing the game to really enjoy that aspect of it, that you have these pivotal moments. You take risks, you do silly things, that's all part of it as well. You can play to win, but you can also play to have a lot of fun, and sometimes the things which are slightly more unpredictable can yield some really amazing sort of interactions with your other players. So basically keep it fun, take them through it step by step. I think that's very important. Will future sets have a theme to them? Yeah, maybe. Some may not. Not talking about the future too much. And obviously, we have Arthurian Legends, which is themed. But wait and see what happens in future. Let's have a look here. When the tabletop simulator tournament be? Hopefully towards the end of this year. We're just getting all of our team ready and waiting, and we'd like to do things like maybe commentate some games as well. Have some fun while people are streaming. So probably promote it through our YouTube channel. Okay, Jonathan, you've been typing a lot here. Let's see what we've got for us. Organized play, covered that. Alternate formats being considered multiplayer, we've covered that as well. This is quite a good question, Rafa. I saw this earlier. This is why I want to pick this out. As the card pool grows and decks would likely increase in the saturation of powerful elite and unique effects with the level of consistency in a 40-card deck, what are your thoughts for responding to that down the road?
There are a lot of things to be said, I guess, about that topic, and we're mindful, right? When we're designing cards in terms of balance, and I mean, it's well known that we do have more freedom in terms of like the power of elite and unique cards, and naturally, it is the game will go a little in that direction. It's just like the natural path, but at the same time, a lot of unique cards and elite cards, they also are really special, like, and have sometimes abilities that are not necessarily like a card that would be run in every single deck ever. Especially like if you look at relics and artifacts in general, right? Like they're so like unique in what they do. That doesn't mean that like every deck would want to run that, right? And a second thing would be also that we actually like this concept of diversity, right? Like decks having so many different cards that every match feels a little different, right? And we do keep in mind that like players care about agency and they want to have decks that work, right? But at the same time, like, and people that have played games like with Highlander in Highlander formats, they know that it's fun because like every new card to draw, it's a new experience, it's a new possibility. So a little of that is by design, right? And we've had some conversations too in terms of possibly increasing deck size a little, but we will, if we ever do that, we're going to do it at the right time.
Wonderful. I'm just making sure I get the contest coming up in a minute, folks. So let me go back to there. It's doing things in the background, so excuse me. Good. In one of the other questions that I saw here, Are there any thoughts on releasing an online game with automated processes that go beyond the functionality of Tabletop Simulator, Erik? Obviously, you have a pretty well-known video game background. What are your thoughts there? Is this Sorcery something that you feel that could translate?
Well, it's certainly possible, and there's kind of thoughts swirling around about this. But it's also something that would have to happen when the game is quite mature, and when it would make sense as a company to make it. It's not a small undertaking. If anything, it's a much bigger undertaking. That it's the typical thing that you underestimate how much work it takes to do properly. And as with everything, I wouldn't like. It would have to be an awesome. Like it would have to be implemented in an awesome way rather than a sort of half measure. So it's not something that would be taken lightly before we start with it. And it's like a multi-year project to really make it nice. So.
Absolutely, and I am no full cards either, so make it easy on you as well, so we can do that. Michael, I did see your comment here. I did read it actually before there, but we don't have a question now, unfortunately. But I did enjoy that. So we do have people who create like fan fiction around our world, and we don't have a pre-prescribed story with Sorcery. But it's more down to interpretation. It kind of like is playing your own adventure. So logically, people make up these events happening in games, and there's some fiction there. So join our Discord if you want to enjoy that. We have 2 or 3 people who've done some cool things there as well. Matt has a question here, Erik. Have you had any thoughts on a dungeon crawlish type of gameplay?
A little bit. In theory, it could work quite well. It probably wouldn't be in dungeons, just to allow a lot more of the art and the cards to be used. It would be probably more of sort of exploring an overworld with maybe sort of short dips into dungeons.
Yeah.
But again, this is another one of those. It's quite a massive undertaking to do something like that and to really do it well. But I think there's a lot of kind of crossover with the mechanics and so on that. Like you can definitely make something cool with that, but yeah, not anytime, not next week. You see what I mean?
I'm disappointed you got the weekend. You could at least knock something out. Also, we have to be careful because we can't be everything, you know. The game as we have it today works really well, and so we have to be quite nuanced how we layer on other experiences, even things like multiplayer, because that can actually change the 2-player game to a degree as well. So I think the answer is yes, we would like to see this. A lot of card games now are being asked to have different dimensions to them, like additional playability baked in. For a dungeon crawler, we're at the macro level. We're the realm, we're the world, and so it might not make sense there, but I'm sure there's some cool things that we could do to introduce these elements into regular gameplay, or maybe have a very specific mode. But like I said, we really need to be conscious of what we do and who we are before we then move into these types of areas as well. We want to make sure that our resources are fully honed in giving you the experience that people backed us for today, and we want to continue that in the future. Okay, we got another art question from Michael. We'll be covering that in a lot of detail when Erik does his interviews. Other games, let's have a look here. Will the alpha release and beta release both have the same card pool? Will you potentially pull out cards to power balance? The beta version is not a balance release. It's basically making additional product available to people who didn't or weren't able to back us on Kickstarter. The changes will be marginal, rather small. We want to make sure that people join in that same experience. Peter has an interesting question. I'm going to put this to both Rafa and Erik. What has been your least favorite part of the process? I could just imagine you're ready for a game to be out and watch people play it and fall in love with it. What piece have you not enjoyed, Rafa, about this project?
And I think it's been mostly positive. It was hard work, like as I mentioned earlier. Like it was quite a successful Kickstarter campaign, and it felt like we wouldn't have to deliver, right? But I would say that the least favorite part, I think, was just some of the part of designing cards and how you like have to level check everything and like typos and like this part of it's just like very manual and not like the part is not very creative or like brainstorming concepts and ideas. I feel like that's probably the least favorite part.
Okay. Erik, what's your least favorite part? Is it for your manual output for the full cards?
Yeah, I didn't mention that before, but there's certain challenges when like being sort of in the dream things up phase at early on is a lot kind of easier, but then when you have to actually sort of create a physical product, then there's a lot of sort of more actual work sort of kicking in at that stage.
Yeah.
But
I saw someone mentioned the signature cards. That was
yeah, but then I don't know. In cases like that, then you just kind of you try to look a bit forward towards like where the project is going and how awesome it will be in the future to get through that type of stuff. But yeah, some things are a little bit more fun than others.
yeah. From my point of view, there's nothing which is unfun. You don't do this not to have fun. But when you're really invested in a project like this, it's all fun because you're focused on the end deliverable. The only points which are not fun is it was not fun delaying the project. That was not fun for anybody here. That was hard work for us, and we did our best to communicate that. So that was something we actually spoke about a lot, and it was very considered. And we got through it thanks to the support of our community, but I didn't feel that was very much fun for us, and it certainly wasn't fun for our backers. I think sometimes it's not fun to not be able to give you guys as many answers as we really would like to. No, we are a small company. We've grown very big. We're currently hiring. We've got a couple of new hires starting very soon. Unfortunately, I don't think we can talk about them just yet. We're so close on the paperwork, certainly for one of them. So we are going to be adding more people to our team, and growth is a challenge. As much as we want to get the game done, we have to devote some resources to developing the company as well, and also things like partnerships. And I wouldn't say they're not fun, but that does take you away from the game a little bit. So it's my role to work with partners and things like that. So I'm kind of relinquishing my core duties to take a more active role there. But I would say that not having the game out is probably the least fun part of this. So good. Well, we've got a few minutes left. While I'm actually getting things like competitions ready, if there's any final questions that people want to put in chat, I'll let the guys maybe pick one or two out to answer, and I'll just make sure that I can get this giveaway up and running. So any last minute questions from anybody on the stream here? Anything we haven't covered today?
I had a question here that I picked up out from before, which was asking about the card design process and what's the most fun part of it. And that it asked about like generalized top-down design or like fine-tuning numbers, balance, flavor text, art direction, or something else. And one thing that popped up in my head was that actually naming cards is really fun. And trying to get just the right kind of memorable and iconic names that sort of sounds right and just sort of rolls off the tongue. That's the type of thing that I probably spend way too much time on.
Yeah, in terms of design for me, I think it's just like thinking about what the final design of that card is going to be like, right? Just thinking about that and especially like the mechanical part of the card, which is more like my area of expertise. But I love that part in the process when like we have the full design or a name type line, and it's just like this whole complete picture, and then see that being played. Like that's just wonderful.
Awesome. So I have the competitions ready. I think we'll go ahead and put people out of their misery now because everyone loves the relentless crowd card. So what I have here is the wheel. So this first wheel is for people who ask the questions on the Kickstarter update. I did tell folks, make sure you put there. We've got 5 cards to give away. This is not going to happen very often. So good luck, everybody. Now, There's some people with the same names. Michaels, there's 2 or 3 Michaels here. They're just Michael. I've actually got a list of the numbers against the comments. So while you may think you've been lucky, if you've got a very simple name, it may be somebody else. I've got a spreadsheet that I can reference. And what we'll do for these people, we'll contact you via Kickstarter. So we'll send you a private message on Kickstarter, basically telling you you're a winner. So I'm going to go ahead and pull 5 people now. Right. Our first winner is, drum roll, please. Thank you very much. Oh, we have Corey, number 59. 59 is for our reference.
Ooh.
Corey, congratulations. Thank you very much for your question and your support. Again, we'll contact you via Kickstarter. Okay, next one. Go ahead. You only get one shot. Who's next? Let's have a look. We have... Oh, that's close. Oh, it went there. Jonathan, congratulations. I really hope you enjoy your Relentless Crowd promo. The Relentless Crowd promos will be sent out around about the same time as Kickstarter products in hand. It'll be same with the part of the same print run. So probably Q1 next year. Okay. The next winner is... Let's have a look here. Getting... Nico, congratulations. You are the proud owner of one of 100 Relentless Crowd promo cards. Okay. Next up, we have... Oh, Sean, unlucky. We have JL Lobster. Congratulations. I think we have one more winner to pull. So... Again, thank you for your questions. We do appreciate people taking the time to ask these. We have, just Simon. And that wasn't me, by the way. It's never Simon. We have Jens Johansson. Jens, congratulations. Right. So those are the 3 winners that we have. Sorry, 5 winners that we have from the Kickstarter questions. We do also have our Gleam. Now, the issue with Gleam is I can't pull it live during the stream. But I will say who's won. The issue is it shows the email address on the screen, and I don't really want us to do that. So I'm going to draw 3 winners from people who've signed up. Before I do that, I just need to make sure that I can look at people who maybe have entered multiple times, because this was a problem in the past. Let's have a look here. Ooh, same IP address. That's okay. That's okay. Good. I think we're fine. That's not a widespread problem like it was before. So there'll be 3 winners here. So good luck, everybody. Going to go ahead and draw the first winner. Again, I'm doing this off stream. I'm going to basically pull all 3 winners at the same time. I'm not going to allow repeat winners. And the winners are, drum roll. Okay, the first winner is Keith Drinkard. Keith, I've got your email address here. So congratulations on that. Go ahead and pull the next winner. So have a look. We will contact you via email. So Gleam won't do that. We'll do that ourselves. Go ahead and pull another winner here. Let's have a look here. Okay. So I'm trying to find how to pull the next winners. It's not made this very easy. Okay, the next winner is Joseph McAllister. Joseph, congratulations. And our final winner is Harley. Just Harley. So congratulations on those 3 people who are on the stream today. I'm sorry we don't have more to give out in future, but the Relentless Crowd promo will be given to people who make meaningful contributions to the community. So this is people potentially who've helped other people, who have produced content, things like that. This is really what we want to do. But so there's an easy way to get one today. Congratulations, everybody. And finally, thank you so much for joining us. I hope we got to as many questions as possible and you enjoyed the stream. I will be updating our living roadmap over the weekend, just to let you know progress for our production process. And if you haven't already, please join our Discord and follow us on social media for any updates. Erik, Rafa, any final closing thoughts?
Nothing from me. Yeah.
I'll just thank you for the support, and I'll see you guys around.
Fantastic. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, then. Bye-bye.